am working on getting my Halloween quilt finished. And finished, I mean, I'm using some Aurifil thread in the color Dove, and I'm working on I'm just doing some free motion all over quilting, and I'm hoping today to finish the quilting and the binding.
I was scared for a long time to try free motion quilting. It just seemed really intimidating to me. But I learned a few simple things that can help, and also just to not take yourself too seriously, because it should all be fun. Quilting should be fun. Anyway, I use the foot number 27 on the Bernina, which is a clear kind of oval shaped foot that is designed for doing free motion. So the main thing when you're doing free motion is to make sure that your feed dogs are down, because you want to be the one moving the fabric. You don't want the fabric to be pulled through with the feed dogs like you normally would for a straight stitch. Having the feed dogs down allows you to put the fabric where you want it to go. And I usually just use like something in between a meander or a loop, because it's meandering loops would be the best description of kind of how I free motion quilt. I know there's tutorials on how to make beautiful feather free motion quilting. That is not what I am doing. I am mostly just doing it so that I can get all 3 layers, the quilt top, the batting, and the backing quilted together so that I can put the binding on, so that this quilt can then be enjoyed and used. On my machine, the feed dog button is right here. When you push it in, it lowers them. When you push it out, that's normal. So for a regular straight stitch or zigzag, you want it out like this, but when you're free motion quilting, you push it in. Do you ever suffer from hand and wrist pain with repetitive motion? I love quilting and sewing. Some wrist pain, especially below my right thumb. And a company reached out to me through my email and asked if I would like to review their compression gloves. And they said they help relieve hand fatigue and cramping. And I was like, actually, this is like perfect timing, because I've been having some of those issues. And so they sent me a pair. They have them in all different sizes, and they have multiple colors. I chose the skin colored, the nude colored gloves in the size extra large, and I was really pleasantly surprised. When I first opened the package, it was really neatly wrapped in tissue paper inside of a nice Ziploc bag, and it had a little care label about how to wash the gloves. But what I was most impressed with was just the quality feel of these. And I was worried because they looked so small, but when I put them on, they slid on easily, and I was able to fully bend and move my fingers. Now, the other nice thing is your fingertips are left outside of the glove. So you're able to do fine things like with your sewing, because you still have use of your fingertips. But then you have this nice compression, and it feels almost like a brace for my wrist. I could bend my fingers, I can rotate. The other nice thing is these gloves have some grip on them. There's like a rubberized grip on the palm, which for free motion quilting, which is what I'm doing right here, you need some grip. So if you've ever been considering something like this product, I have to say I've been trying it out. I really do love these. I might have to get myself another pair just as backup. I'm going to put the link in my description, and I also have a 10% discount code that you can use for any of my viewers that want to try these compression gloves out. Okay, the next step after finishing the free motion quilting, or however you want to quilt it, if you quilted it with straight lines or if you send it to a long armor, is to trim off everything beyond the edges of your border. And so I'm just adjusting my cutting mat to be going the long way. I'm going to use my long ruler and my rotary cutter, and there's some overhang of the batting and the backing, because I had those a little bit larger than my quilt top. And so now that the quilting is finished, where I sewed all 3 layers together with the free motion quilting, I am using my rotary cutter. I'm putting that ruler right up against the edge of my border, and I'm just trimming off everything extra. The next step in the process is to cut your binding strips. I had enough of that black fabric with the white spider webs to use that. It's the same fabric I used on the back, so it should end up just kind of blending in well. And then on the front, it'll be right up against that orange border. So I think it'll look nice on both sides. I'm just cutting this fabric that I have chosen to use as my binding. I'm cutting it into 2.5-inch strips. Once you have the strips cut, you need to join them end to end, right sides together. And I heard someone say once that you should think about it as a little pair of pants and then sew across the hips. If the strips are the legs, then you sew from hip to hip. And honestly, that saying helps me to get my strips sewn together the correct way. After you've joined your 2.5-inch strips end to end, then it's time to iron them. I just fold them in half, wrong side together, and so with the right side out, and you fold it in half and just iron that down. When I get to the seams, I press my seams open so it'll lay flatter in the binding. So here you can see what I mean. The wrong sides are together. The good side of the fabric is on the outside. You're gonna put the raw edges next to the raw edges of your quilt. Your fold is towards the center of your quilt, and you're putting raw edges next to raw edges, and you sew down with a 1/4-inch seam, leaving a tail of about 8 to 10 inches so you have room to join your binding at the end. Now I'm attaching it to the front, and then later I will flip it to the back and sew it down, but you can also do the opposite. You can sew it to the back by machine and flip it into the front, and then sew it down by machine. You can sew it down to the front by machine, flip it to the back, and hand sew it down. There's lots of different methods. Now, the corners, when you get about a 1/4 inch away from the end, you're gonna pivot and sew off the end. Then you pull the strip right out to the right-hand side and then back over, creating a nice little corner. And this will allow you to kind of get a nice, neat corner. Thank you so much for sewing with me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, hype it up, share it with a quilting friend or a friend who likes to sew, and I hope to see you back here real soon. Happy quilting!